Sinisterism is about finding the primal aspects of the left-hand path, primal in history, primal in the psyche, thus obtaining truth. Thomas Leroy.
Greetings, my friends, and welcome back to your dose of sinister heathenry. But for those new to the channel, I'm Thomas Leroy, founder of the International Left-Hand Path organization, the Sect of the Horn God. The sect is an educational foundation created to not only make those with a black flame aware of its glow, but to also restore the shadow aspects to the ancient gods by going deep into the past, not only historically, but also psychologically. For the primal depths of the psyche are limitless. So, if this sounds interesting, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to learn more, join the organization, the Sect of the Horn God, at the link down below. Thank you. I have a fascination with indigenous cultures and their belief systems. I think the reason why is because they're keepers of an ancient wisdom lost to the Western world. Now, I don't like to refer to them as primitive because primitive denotes ignorance, and these people and cultures were not and are not ignorant, for they have retained a primordial truth, a truth that transcends time. Because what was true 100,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago or yesterday is true today. So wiping away the veneer of modernity from time to time is healthy if one longs to find what lies at the historical and psychological core of one's practice. So when I got this message on Instagram, Mr. Leroy, can you please make a video on ancient Mesoamerica and the left-hand path? I figured, why the hell not? Almost all gods everywhere, except for a few Middle Eastern ones, if you know what I mean, were not inherently good or evil. Thus, civilizations such as the Aztec and the Maya did not articulate a left-hand path in the modern esoteric sense, so defining it within these cultures can be a bit difficult. Their mythologies, deities, and rituals already had many of the themes associated with the paths, such as transgression, the utilization of disruptive energies for personal transformation, and the pursuit of power through non-ordinary means. Far from being marginal or evil, these elements were part of their worldview. They understood the sacred as something that transcends moral binaries and requires engagement with both light and darkness. In this way, the left-hand path in Mesoamerica is not a deviation from the sacred, but an expression of it, for they understood that darkness was essential to bring about equilibrium within the cosmos. Like many other cultures, they believed that the universe was in constant tension between opposing forces, day and night, life and death, creation and destruction, male and female. And this cosmological principle is evident in their pantheons, where they had gods who whispered and gods who screamed, but few deities, though, offered the comfort of light. These were blood-drenched religions with rites of ecstasy and agony, where divinity comes not with redemption, but with the sanctity of annihilation. The left-hand path, the arcane, the inverted, the heretical, runs not counter to Mesoamerican belief, but through it. What I'm getting at here is these ancient traditions with their elements of transgressive power, death, and sorcery reflects a parallel to what we understand in the modern world as the left-hand path. But even with all this, there were those known to operate outside the sanctioned religious structures. These were shamans that had the ability to communicate with the underworld and wield powers derived from their connection to nocturnal deities. They cast a greater shadow than what was accepted. Now, there are no really clear examples of the left-hand path among the Mesoamerican shamans, but the Nawali come close. Not all of them, but some appear to harbor a heretical essence. In their belief systems, every human is tethered to a spiritual essence, an animal twin, the shadow soul. But sometimes they would go beyond the passive connection. These were beings born of divine hunger and human frailty, shapeshifters whose essence is not limited by the simple dichotomy of man and animal. They would become their twin in the same way a soul would become infected with a god, fully, violently, and with no promise of return. The Nawali became a rupture, a gash in the veil that separates the rational from the mystical, the skin from the spirit. They did not wear the beast shape as one might don a mask, no. It's believed they became the beast by tearing themselves open, inverting their own organs, snapping bones into new geometries, and slithering into the flesh of the other. Jaguars, serpents, whatever, these are not disguises but revelations. And besides the Nawali, there were other dark shamans who were sometimes consulted in secret by those desperate for power, revenge, or forbidden knowledge. These were feared spiritual outlaws who operated where original religion could not or would not. And this association with sorcery, secrecy, and dark powers aligns with a transgressive domain. In both Aztec and Maya traditions, such practitioners were often accused of malevolent acts, causing illness, stealing life forces, or even engaging in ritualistic cannibalism. Yet they were also necessary because of their abilities to navigate the perilous thresholds between worlds. This mirrors the modern occult understanding of the left-hand path as a means of accessing hidden knowledge and power through the paths that defy orthodoxy and moral convention. The ritual use of blood and human sacrifice, especially to chthonic deities, demonstrates a cultural embrace of death and suffering as sacred. Such practices reflects a worldview in which the boundaries between the sacred and the profane, creation and destruction, were ambiguous. The Aztec solar war god, for example, thrived on the hearts of the sacrifice. Not the metaphorical kind, but the bleeding, still beating kind, torn from open chests with obsidian daggers. The Mesoamericans understood that all life thrives on death. So to feed the sun, one must kill. To delay the apocalypse, one must bleed. So, what could be considered left-hand path here is not rebellion against the divine, but participation in its horror. This aligns with the ethos of the path, embracing death and taboo as a means of attaining spiritual power or cosmic equilibrium. For example, there's a popular god with both the Aztec and the Mayans, the flayed god, he who had skinned himself. To modern eyes, he's a horror, but to the ancients, he was a god of fertility and renewal. Here, the left-hand path reveals itself in brutal clarity, transformation through death, beauty, and grotesque rebirth. Unlike Western traditions where the left-hand path often signifies defiance or satanic independence, Mesoamerican myth intertwines it with orthodoxy. The most sacred rites were also the most depraved. not the metaphorical sacrifice of quiet piety. These gods want you screaming. They want your heart in their hands. They want your blood painting the steps of pyramids. Thus, to walk the left-hand path in these traditions is not to oppose the gods, but to embrace them. The flesh must be torn to reveal the sacred. The sacred must bleed to remain alive. This is not metaphor. This is reality rendered divine. In conclusion, to walk the left-hand path is to ultimately become something no longer human, but instead something monstrous yet divine. But to do this in the modern sense, one must go away from God and embrace the heretical. In the Mesoamerican version, though, the path leads through the gods, through their guts, their appetites, their ceremonies of bone and song. Thus, the blood-soaked pyramids become places of transformation. Their summits, not temples, but wounds in the sky. The sacred and the profane are not opposites. They are bedfellows, lovers. Their rituals brought order through atrocity and beauty through blood. Until next time.